Hey YouTube, coming at you again here. While I was away, I saw that I was tagged by back in Cali for one of those 10 random things about me videos. Um, so I thought I'd do one here. Uh, okay, the first one, my hometown. I grew up in, and I still live actually, in the northwest corner of Minnesota. Um, I'm about an hour east of the North Dakota border and an hour south of the Canadian border. So if you got any kind of corner, that's the one right there. The town I grew up in, and yes, the town actually does exist, is named Viking, Minnesota. Um, and the town was there long before the team was. So um, yeah, it's a town of about 100 people. Uh, Nothing really there. A couple churches. And a cafe. That's about it. There was a grocery store there when I was growing up, but that's since closed. Community center that has the essential groceries and arcade and stuff in there. Most people just leave town after they grow up. Now I'm living in a town called Thief River Falls, Minnesota, which is about 20 miles from Viking. I went to Fargo for a few years, and after that I kind of got homesick, moved back, got my own apartment. That didn't work out either because I get bored very easily, so I've moved in with a couple of roommates, and now I'm getting sick of this area again and plan to move back to Fargo in the next couple months here. Thief River Falls is a town of about close to 10,000 people. Just for the wrestling fans I know that I've got on here, we are about 15 miles away from a town called Plummer, Minnesota, which is where Molly Holly grew up. She still owns a house there, and her parents still live there. Alright, fact number 2, my username, distemic. I actually, for kicks and giggles last week, looked it up on Google, and distemic is actually a form of depression. But that's not why I used it. The reason I came up with it is when I was in high school, we finally got internet access at high school, and for the internet access you needed a username, and everybody's given username was the first 5 letters of their last name and the first 3 letters of the first name. My name is Micah Distel, and so that's DISTEMIC. So that's where that came from. Like I said, real name's Micah Distel. First time anybody's ever said it, it's never been pronounced correctly, and it's never been spelled correctly when it's been in newspapers, etc. It's just hard. It's just a hard name to keep track of. Whether it's M-I-C-H-A, M-I-C-A, which is rock. Okay, moving on. A lot of my friends on here know that I am a huge wrestling fan, and that I'm actually involved in a pro wrestling promotion. It's a small one down in Cass Lake, Minnesota, which is about 2 hours from here, called Northern Star Entertainment Pro Wrestling. The way it came about was actually by accident. I'd been to a few of their shows when they've been in the area, and one of my buddies up here wanted to become a pro wrestler, so I took him to a show they had going on, and he met the promoter, talked to him. The promoter was like, well, we can start training you at the next show, and he talked me into driving him down there, and since I was there, they convinced me to actually step into the ring myself. I do have formal training as far as wrestling is concerned. I know how to do everything, at least the basic stuff anyway, and I'm a jack of all trades basically with the promotion. It depends on how many people they have at the show to do whatever. I referee, mostly I manage, and I occasionally step through the ropes and actually wrestle myself. I don't particularly care to do that too often, since my body is very easily bruised and beat up. Um, wrestling name is Micah Matters. Nothing else matters. Um, that's about it. Okay. Over the years, I've met quite a few wrestlers. Bumped into them after shows that we've gone to. Nobody major, but a lot of guys that if I said their name, you'd be like, oh yeah, I've heard of him, even if you're not a major wrestling fan. Randy Orton, Chris Jericho. What else is back there? Those would probably be the two major ones. X-Pac. I've been ignored by the Big Show when I've met him. Let's see. Most recent one out of the big stars is a superstar on Raw named Jack Swagger. I met him completely by accident. I used to work at the Walmart here in Thief River Falls, and next lane over from me, this girl was talking about how her boyfriend was a huge pro wrestler and he was going to be in the WWE someday, and I thought it was just the guy's girlfriend just bringing him up. And so I asked him, since I figured he was just a local guy and there are so many promotions in Minnesota, I asked him who he worked for, and the guy said Vince McMahon, and I figured the guy was just being a prick, and so I just let it go. And a few weeks later, Jack Swagger debuts on ECW, and it was the guy that I had met. Okay, next one, card collecting. I started collecting back in 1988, just baseball mostly at the time, usually the 50-cent packs of Topps, 15 cards in a pack. Collected football, eventually started collecting basketball. I stopped collecting about 1996, basically just because all the card stores in the area had closed down, and the closest one was Fargo. At the time I didn't really have access to a car, so a 2-hour drive was kind of out of the question as far as card collecting. Started collecting again in 2000 after I'd moved to Fargo. First year I was down there, I didn't buy it all because I didn't have my own car to take me to the mall to get anything. So, but once I had a car, I got back into it and I got hooked again, and I've rebuilt my collection pretty big. Back when I was collecting majorly, I was well into the 6 digits as far as the number of cards I owned, and that's not including doubles. When I went off to college, I moved into the dorm rooms, and the storage space was about the size of a phone booth, so I couldn't keep them with me. I didn't know what my parents would do with them if I let them have them, or if I left them at home. So I gave them to a friend of mine who I am hoping to get in contact with again soon, see what he ever did with them, and possibly get them back. So that's my card collecting story. Teams. Growing up in Minnesota, obviously the Twins are my favorite team of all time. I was watching Game 7 of the '87 World Series where they beat the Cardinals. I was only 6 and my dad let me stay up and watch the game. I remember that. And then I remember watching the '91 World Series and Kirby Puckett's Game 6 home run in extra innings to force a Game 7, and Kent Herbeck's pulling Ron Gant off first base to tag him out. Jack Morris's Game 7 gem that helped keep the game close enough so that we could win it in extras. It was just an awesome year. '91 was probably my favorite year. Also, being from Minnesota, I'm an automatic Vikings fan. Obviously, I wasn't around during the time that they made it during their 4 Super Bowl runs or anything along those lines.